Hello and welcome back to the channel, fellow farmers. Well, the wait is finally over. We are here on Elm Creek and FS22. And I have to say, I think the wait was worth it. I spent a fair bit of time yesterday, today on this particular map, uh, conducting a bunch of testing, and I've really enjoyed it so far. Even if it hasn't been exciting gameplay, just doing testing. But this isn't the first video I planned on doing for FS22, and as a matter of fact, isn't even the second one. I started yesterday by getting set up and doing testing, some background testing for production chains, like I had alluded to in my first video. And as the day went on, I realized I wasn't going to be able to have something ready to provide a video, so I decided to do another shorter video on some of the testing kind of related to that. And things didn't go as I expected. And so I had to kind of can that one. And that's what led me to get involved in some further testing today, particularly on yields here on FS22. Now, Giants has an in-game help menu, and if we take a look at that, they have a section here on improving yields. And we see some of the things we're used to seeing in FS19. Fertilizing gives us a bonus. Uh, excuse me. Uh, Lime and plowing, there's bonuses associated with that. But there's a new one using a mulcher on stubble. And if we scroll down a little bit here, there's also one here where they mention there's a 5% bonus if you roll in the rocks. So it was the mulching one in particular that I was looking at that things didn't go as I expected. So I decided to do a little further testing today and then just went further down the rabbit hole in what I actually really intended. So I apologize, this isn't going to be as a dynamic video as maybe used to, but when I first started out, I didn't think it was necessary to record. And then as I went further and further along, I didn't want to go back and start over. So I thought, well, I'll just share the results. Um, I don't think you wanted to see me do, I don't know how many countless laps around this little field here in front of us. And I spent a lot of time sleeping through the day. Matter of fact, I thought I should have changed my name to Farmer Bear. I hibernated through so many months doing this. But we'll get into that a little bit more later. But if we look at this field here, it's one of the fields we start off on the base farm. Right now, you can see it's not in very good shape. It's got no fertilizer, needs lime, needs plowing, and you can see there's some pesky little rocks here. So if we were to plant this field in the state it's in and do nothing to it, then we would end up with, at harvest time, something that looks like this. Well, now if everything went as planned in editing, you should have seen a screenshot showing a fully mature field of barley with a whole whack of weeds in there. Um, but I had done nothing to this. I hadn't had any fertilizer, any lime. Obviously didn't do anything with the weeds. And when I harvested this, um, obviously it wasn't the best result in the world. And in fact, what I ended up with was 3,318 liters. But now, as it turns out, that's not the only way you can harvest this field. And in fact, uh, I have seasonal growth turned off right now. Um, but you can harvest it in the rain, and when you do that, you see something like this. Well, from that video clip, you can see that obviously it's raining and that we have a warning there that if we're going to harvest in the rain, we are going to suffer a yield penalty. Now, I don't recall seeing that yield penalty warning in FS19, but I have to admit I didn't make a habit of harvesting in the rain either. But I went ahead and harvested. It was exactly this the same field in the same conditions. I hadn't done any liming, taken any rocks out of the field, any fertilizing, none of that. And that harvest was 1,659, exactly half of the previous one. So, as bad as it is to harvest a field in this condition without doing anything to it, doing it in the rain is even worse. But those two numbers are going to have some significance to us here going forward. What I did is I then took the field in this condition like it is, and turned everything on, turned all rocks, liming, periodic plowing, weeds, all of those parameters were turned on. And I harvested this field, correcting for each one of those uh, particular problems one at a time, and recorded the results. And I've made up a little table here that we'll take a look at and see what we can learn from that. Okay, here's the results from today's testing. I have a column with the yield from each of the two harvest conditions, and then underneath the applicable bonuses that are applied to those yields. And you'll notice everything falls under the normal conditioned harvest, worst case normal conditions, I guess you could say, except for the mulching. That 5% bonus is actually on the harvest that was done in the rain. So I found that kind of interesting that one would be different. You also notice that there's nothing in here for the rocks. Try as I might, I could not either get a penalty nor a bonus for rolling in the rocks. If I left all the rocks on the field, large and small, I got exactly the same yield as if they weren't there. If I collected the rocks with the rock picker and then rolled them in, exactly the same yield again. I tried doing them individually, like just rolling in and leaving the big rocks, nothing happened. I tried doing it with seasons on or off. I tried doing it in conjunction with other bonuses. Rocks just had no impact no matter what I did one way or another. So that seems to be broken right now, at least at the time of this recording. So if you're doing rocks, it's just for the fun of doing it or the realism, but there is not going to be any yield benefit at all. The other thing I wanted to mention before I signed off was that I looked at the yield comparison between seasonal cycles on or off. That was exactly the same either way. Also, if you turned like the liming, plowing, you turned everything off, or turned it all on and did everything to get the bonuses, like took care of all the weeds, add the lime, did the plowing, add all of that, you get exactly the same yield. So if you turn everything off or you turn everything on and do everything, the end result is going to be the same. I also looked at the yield between the different game modes because it is a new game. I kind of assumed that they would be the same, but I thought seeing was doing it, I might as well check that, and it is. It doesn't matter if you're playing on Farm Manager or Start from Scratch. You're going to get this exact same yield for the same conditions. So I hope you found that information useful. I wouldn't say it probably was entertaining, but if you got something out of it, if you could give us a like, and if you're interested in more of this kind of testing going forward, subscribe. And like I said, the next one I plan on doing is taking a look at the financial impact of production chains. But for this one, we'll call it a wrap. And Farmer Murphy.